you got it locked on Roadium Radio.
Hey Tony, drop that what bass?
I bet. Dr. Dre in the place to be. Co-rockin' shit with my homeboy Steve. After Roadium, get stupid some. Yo, don't think that you can get none of Dre. The motherfucking doctor, the bitch hopper, the sucker motherfucking stopper. I'm fucked up, so don't mind what I'm saying. I'm just kicking it, but Steve, Tony, A.A, Susan, yo, we can choose it. Dope shit to put in a mix. Know what I'm saying? We kick shit like and that's a fact. And if your shit ain't in the mix, you know it's whack. And that ain't no bullshit. I'm kicking facts on a serious tip. Word up, Dr. Dre's in full effect doing serious damage, boy.
Tony A! Tony A! When you're ready, go.
Welcome back, everyone, to Roadium Radio, episode 188. And before I introduce my very special guest of the night, just a couple of minor announcements. Once again, last night we had episode 3 with Dining with the Wizard, and I had Mr. D. We were having a dope conversation. If you guys didn't tune in, make sure you guys tune in. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment, whether it's negative or positive. It doesn't matter. You guys are still watching. Okay, we go randomly whenever I do that. We just have a conversation. We eat, we talk, we drink, we be merry. Okay, but we go randomly. It's not a set date. We can go on a Monday, we can go on a Tuesday, we can go on a Thursday, we can actually go on a Friday. Yesterday we went on a Saturday on episode 3. Next week I have another special guest coming in, and we'll be conversating, and he'll be dining with the wizard once again. So make sure you hit that notification bell button so when we go live, you get notified that we're about to go into a dope conversation. So with that being said, for those of you that are interested in buying merch, go to DOCUMIXERY.com. For those of you that are interested in buying the Mr. D single, you could DM me, or you could DM Mr. D or his manager. Okay. Other than that, for those of you that are still wanting to submit music, go to roadiumradio@gmail.com, and there, once again, submit your music / videos and a short bio. Please, and I'm asking you nicely, please do not DM me your music. I do not click on links. If you send me your music, I'm just going to leave you on red if I open it. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to listen to it. So make sure you send it to roadiumradio@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you in a timely manner. So with that being said, once again, back by popular demand, many of you have requested him, and we brought him back. He's here not only to educate us, but also to reveal many things, and also a message for our people. So we're calling this a message to our gente, part 2, with none other than Clear Bear. How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother.
I'm glad you came. The only thing I ask is speak directly into the mic so that we can get the best volume possible. Other than that, man, I'm glad you're back. Last time you were here, I was being educated. There were so many things that I've learned, so many things that I didn't know. And it's one thing that I like to do. I like to learn. You know, there are people that like to act like they know it all. I've always said, if you know it all, then you can never learn anything, you know? So me, I like to be a sponge. I like to have an open mind to certain conversations, but the conversations like this really intrigue me. So that's why I said, people are asking for you. Let's bring you back. Let's talk. And here we are.
We are.
So last time you were here, man, you said a lot of interesting things. You spoke. One thing that really got my attention was how passionate you were, not only about your message to our people, but in what you believe. You know, and the reason why I share that is because there are many people that have taught me things. I've studied many different religions, and only a few, if I studied 10 different religions, maybe only one guy or two guys were very passionate about what they believed. And those are the guys that I actually somewhat believed because they were believable, if you will, you know. So now, other than that, man, how's your weekend been going?
My week has been going pretty good, pretty solid. Lots of work in the movement. I just want to make a quick disclaimer. I recently had a concussion, so if I'm a little slow or off, it's because I'm still healing and recovering from that concussion.
Okay. Now, you weren't trying to climb those milk crates and you fell off, did you?
No.
Okay. Okay. Because it seems like that's what everybody's doing now. You know what I'm saying? And they fall and
Oh, yeah.
they eat it nasty, man. Terrible. So, yeah, I can't do that shit. But now, other than that, you asked me earlier, am I a boxing fan? And I said, yeah. So I asked you, are you a boxing fan? And you said, oh, not really. So I thought that was kind of interesting that you would ask me, but yeah, you don't watch boxing.
I'm a boxing fan, just not too much of what's going on now. For example, the whole Jake Paul stuff, I'm just not.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not really into that. You know,
Yeah.
that's a YouTuber, not a fighter.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I prefer the older days, you know, the older days for sure. I like, well, the only fighter that I can think of that I really like right now is Juan Manuel Marquez, still.
Okay, good. You know, so now, if we can give a quick recap, maybe somebody's tuning in and they see the name Clear Bear and they say, is this guy a rapper? Is this guy an actor? Is this guy a book writer or whatnot? Let's give a quick recap on what was it that intrigued you? What was it that motivated you? What was it that moved you to begin looking into your roots?
So my name is Clear Bear. I'm an indigenous activist. I'm one of the founders of the Indigenous Alliance Movement, acronym IAM. And we're an organization focused on reconnecting to native roots for quote-unquote Latinos, quote-unquote Hispanics, quote-unquote Mexicans, so that they can understand their indigenous identity. What brought me here to be into this this particular line of work was my own upbringing. I grew up being adopted by non-natives, white folk who didn't really understand what it meant to be native, and even taught me to be ashamed of being indigenous, or that I wasn't indigenous at all. So that kind of led me and fueled the fire within me to figure out who exactly am I, who is exactly our people, what is happening with our people. And I got to the root, and the root was that we are indigenous people. We are native to this continent. We're a continental people, just as there are European peoples in Europe, just as there are African peoples in Africa, just like there are Asian people in Asia. We are no different, but yet we are so ununified. We're so, you know, we're put into nationalistic identities such as Mexican, El Salvadorian, Peruvian, Guatemalan, Belizean, and all these identities were created by white people. They were created by the colonizers who came over shores to our lands, and they wanted to group us away from our native identity so that they could take our land and resources. And the same thing is going on, and it's being perpetuated because, again, they want to keep on to our land and resources. And yeah, to make a long story short, that's what it's about.
Good. Okay. You know, now somebody may ask, how long has he been studying this? If you can give years, maybe a ballpark figure, how long you've been doing this?
Well, the journey has been all my life.
Okay.
I started when the first book I looked into when I was 9 years old was the Popol Vuh, right? And then as I still started, it was like a snowball effect.
Uh-huh.
As time went on, I got more and more and more interested in who we are and what our people were doing before contamination, before the Europeans came over and colonized us.
Okay. Now, I had a couple of questions that some of the people that are fans of Roadium Radio wanted to ask you.
Yes.
And hopefully I can get to them. Let me see. And some of them are actually pretty interesting. Okay, where is it at? Okay, ask Clear Bear, where do we research and learn what he knows? That's one question. And also, for example, if I myself want to find out if I have roots like this, where do I look?
That's a great question. So the first thing I want to start off by saying is that I'm with the Indigenous Alliance Movement. And one of the things we do is we have a genealogical department. So this genealogical department helps folks who, go by Mexican or Salvadorian, Latino, etc., whatever, how to find their native roots, right? How to find their native roots, their native tribe, because a lot of us, we go with Latino, end of story. We go with Hispanic, end of story. We go with Mexican, end of story, right? And that's really, unfortunately, it's an injustice. It's an injustice because our history is a lot deeper than that. We've only been that for 500 years. So what we do in the Indigenous Alliance movement is, in our genealogical department, again, we help folks reconnect, literally. Look at the documents. We help people look at their family records and find their tribe, find where they come from. And, we get, there's a bunch of DMs. We have a bunch of DMs in our inbox right now of folks trying to do that. So you message us and we'll put you on the waiting list and we'll get that out of the way. And then for getting to know the knowledge that I've come across, I would say that it starts in traveling, going to ceremonies, talking to elders first. Second, reading books. Again, our people, a lot of people say that knowledge is only found in books, right? Like you can only, or institutions, right? But that's not the way our people learned. Our people traditionally learned just basic knowledge orally, like we were just talked to. We were talked to from our elders and we were just being taught. And that is a valid way to learn. That is a valid way to learn that many of our peoples forget because of the institutionalization that has been going on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully that answered your question. So once again, they could DM you, and but there is a waiting period. Obviously,
there's a waiting list.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people. Just like when artists try to reach out to us to, I want to get an interview. There's a waiting list. We're usually booked a month and a half. Many times, some people may get a surprise call because somebody may cancel. So I get it, but with you guys, it's a little different. So once again, you could DM him and he'll shoot you all the info, and just be patient with him and they'll get back to you.
I also want to add that I have a list of books that I am going to read at the end.
Okay.
So people can get kind of a basic idea of where to start.
Okay, great. Okay, let me see. There's another question. Well, I'll get to that one later. This one says, and once again, if I butcher these names, please forgive me. A lot of these names I never even said before. So what are his thoughts on Danza Azteca? How often does he ceremony?
Okay. So what I think about, I'll start off with what I think of Danza Azteca. So Danza Azteca is essentially Aztec dance, right? You see it like at events, powwows, quinceañeras sometimes, and it's like what is supposed to be seen as the traditional Aztec dancing, right? With the Aztecs, how they would dance. And that's just kind of continued. There's a lot of hitting the drums. There's a lot of dancing, obviously. But I personally think that what's being left out is it's not 100% Aztec. A lot of those dances are actually Chichimeca. A lot of those dances are actually mixed in with a lot of European dances from Spain, right? And other tribes as well, other native nations. And again, we look at that and we think that's Aztec, but what we're really getting is just kind of like a mix. We're getting a mix of different stuff. We're getting some influences from Europe. We're getting some influences from different native nations that aren't necessarily Aztec. And yeah, that's important to note because a lot of us are like, yeah, Aztec dancing, but it's like, is it really Aztec? No, it's more of a modern thing. And then you look at what our people are wearing. I mean, yeah, there's native elements to what they're wearing, but a lot of it has been commercialized, so that they're wearing non-traditional things, right? So they're implementing a lot of plastic, and a lot of what they wear looks like a costume. You have and that's essentially it, And then there's a lot of influence, so it's not like it's specifically Aztec. And then how often I have ceremony? I try to have ceremony every day, Okay. And ceremony, the way I was taught, is not, the ceremony is your life. It's not like a special event, right? It's not like I have to do something special every day in the sense of like go to some sort of action or event where a bunch of people are there praying together and smudging. No, that's not what a ceremony is. A ceremony is your life. Those are just a reminder that your life is a ceremony. So I do a ceremony every day. I try to wake up as early as possible and pray to my ancestors and pray to Creator. So that's kind of my morning ritual.
Okay. You know, now let's just say, well, let me ask you this. Have you ever gotten anyone, whether it be social media or in person, that has came up to you and tried to challenge you as far as what you teach and what you believe in? Have you gotten people like that?
Nonstop.
Really?
Nonstop. Yeah, it's nonstop. I mean, I would say that I'm always arguing with somebody. Always.
Well, like, what are some of the things that they may say?
Well, different groups say different things.
Okay.
So sometimes I'll have more colonized, right? Colonized natives or colonized brown folk who literally have no idea of the history, just saying I'm some sort of crazy radical, but they don't even know the history themselves, so they can't even give me a genuine fight in what they're talking about. But a lot of it is, oh, that was in the past. So, for example, there's a recent incident. I was at a family gathering of my partners, and her relative, I'll try to be as confidential as possible. Her relative was saying, you know, had my hair down, I had my earrings on, I was looking pretty indigenous, but again, I don't go out imposing my beliefs on anyone. I don't follow that, you know. But I do stand up for my people, and I do stand up for the truth of indigenous people. And he was saying, why would I want to identify as native? They're losers. They're losers. I don't want to identify as a loser. I want to identify as a winner. I want to live my life as the winner, not the loser, right? And I overheard this, and he was raising his voice in a way so I could hear it.
Yeah.
Right. He was raising his voice so I could hear it. And I immediately got up and I sat in front of him, and I said, you mind if I sit down? And I told him that what he is saying is not okay, and that essentially our race is not a sports team. Our race is not a basketball team. It's not a baseball team. It's who we are. It's our ancestral identity. That's something you can never run away from. You have to face the music. You have to look it in the eyes and know that's who you are. And I said, why are you trying to generalize our whole race as losers? Yeah, but they lost. They lost. We got to get over it. We got to get over it. Oh, we got colonized, you know, and it's just over. We've been, you know, and again, that's like, you know, it's a very childish way to look at things, in my opinion, because when you look at it, we are not losers. We are going through a genocide, a Holocaust. That's like saying, for example, Nazi Germany. I'm going to say, oh, I want to identify with the winners. I don't want to identify with the Jews. The Jews are losers, right? Again, it's very insensitive, and I told him that. What you're saying is very insensitive because, one, it's not in the past, right? It's not in the past. This struggle is not in the past. Our women are still getting sterilized in the border. Our children are still getting locked up in cages. You know, innocent indigenous people are getting murdered in the Amazon, in Ecuador, in all over the Americas. They're getting murdered by corporations to extract resources. That's genocide. That is the textbook definition of genocide. And again, I was laying down these facts on him, and he apologized. So I although what he was saying was very disrespectful and very rude, there's children around, there's our children around, so I had to say something. I do respect the fact that he was able to humble himself and say that he doesn't know, and he did. And again, I think that speaks louder for his own sense of self. He lacks empathy for his own being. He lacks empathy for his own race. He lacks empathy for his own situation, right? And, that's something we got to swallow. Something we got to understand as a people, collective.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Wow. You know what? I'm glad you said something because you are using your voice to share your knowledge and you educated him. You allowed him to see certain things that maybe he didn't see or maybe he didn't want to see. And like you said, he apologized, but I think a lot of us at one point probably said that, have probably said stupid things like that, but we learn from those things and we move on, but I would never ever talk down on someone because of what they believe. I mean, it'll be like me looking at a guy that's maybe I don't know, a Buddhist and me just laughing. Oh, that guy's, dumb and why does he do it? And I don't even know nothing about that guy or his religion. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I get it. Now, here's a question that I wanted to ask because when I was a little kid, my father shared this with me because I asked him one day. Actually, he asked me. Let me go back. In my room, I had a big Mexican flag.
Yes.
Okay, green, white, and red with the eagle, the cactus, and the snake.
Yes.
Okay. So one day he walks in the room. Now I'm a youngster. I'm a teenager. And he walks in the room and he says, why do you have the Mexican flag up there? And by the way he asked me, for some reason, I knew I was somewhat like in trouble. Like I knew he was going to quiz me.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you. I said, because I'm Mexican. He said, who told you you were Mexican? And I said, well, you and mom were born in Mexico. I mean, we weren't allowed to speak English at home, so we spoke Spanish.
Yes.
And I told him that. And I go, well, so I guess I'm Mexican, but you weren't born over there. And I was like, okay, then what am I then? He said, well, before we get to that, he goes, I want to ask you something. Do you know why we have an eagle, a cactus, and a serpent or a snake in his mouth? Mm-hmm. And then I said, I don't know. And now I'm trying to get smart aleck. I said, I don't know. Maybe there was a drawing contest and that guy won and he drew the best. So they just slapped it on there. I like it. So what? Mm-hmm. And he said, let me share this with you. And he shared the story of how that came to be. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if there's different stories about how we got the eagle, the cactus, and the serpent. Mm-hmm. Can you share it for people that may not know? Because I went around asking people, yes, do you know why we have that there in the middle of our flag, okay? And I would say, not, if I asked 20 people, at least 18 people did not know. Wow. Now, I was one of them, okay, because I had it hanging up. And I just thought, yeah, hell yeah, Chicano power, Viva Mexico, and all that stuff. Yes. But I didn't know. I was ignorant. And I do believe that there's some people out there that are probably prideful, but a good prideful of who they are, but they're not educated just like the way I was. I wasn't educated. So can you please share with us why we have that?
Yes. So the flag of Mexico, I think there's a disclaimer that needs to be shouted out before we even get into the conversation about this flag. This flag was created by Spaniards, mm-hmm, right? This flag was created heavily by a European influence, right? And the symbol of the brown eagle on a cactus with a serpent in its mouth is an indigenous symbol, but it is appropriated, meaning it was used, right? It was used as a tool to, get us into what they were pushing. So they use it. But what it means was basically the Mexica peoples, right? In their travels and migration, they saw the eagle, they saw the symbol, and it was a message saying that that was I'm sorry.
Take your time.
Yeah, I had a concussion.
It's okay.
But yes, it was a symbol that is where Tenochtitlan, the great empire, would be. That's where they would build their city. And yes, that's what that means. So, yeah. Okay.
Now, so these people, I guess, they saw this, and at the time, again, because I didn't know, did this eagle have a serpent in his mouth?
Yes, it had a serpent in its mouth. It was on a cactus. The whole basic premise of it was there, and that's how it was decided.
So they saw it as this was a sign. Then
it was a sign. It was a symbol from their creator.
Okay. Now, is there different story? Because from what my dad told me, it was partly that. and it was a little bit more. Is there different stories or different, how would you say, interpretations of that out there, or is it all pretty much the same?
Different nations have different beliefs surrounding it. You know.
Okay.
So no two tribes think the same. There's always going to be a different perspective on it.
Okay. Can you share, if you do know, what maybe other tribes might say about that eagle serpent? Do they have a different interpretation on that? And have you heard these different interpretations?
I have heard that the brown eagle on the cactus holding a serpent represents great change.
Okay.
A lot of it is very similar. It's just like little things,
Okay.
right? It's like, oh, it just means a great change, like a transformation. And then with that message, they believe that that's where their city would be,
Okay.
right? So
it's pretty much all the same, just
It's
some
pretty
people
much-
add a
yeah.
little bit more.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Because my dad had mentioned something like that. Your story sounds very familiar, but I know his story was a little bit longer. You know, because my dad was a great storyteller. But now, where did if you know, the green, white, and red come from?
Okay, so green represents hope, white represents purity, and red represents the blood that was spilled in order to create the nation of quote unquote Mexico. So essentially, again, red is not by indigenous folks, brown people like us. It was by the Spaniards who had fallen in order to create this country. Because again, this country was not created by brown people. It was created by European people. You know, again, Mexican independence, for example, that wasn't independence for brown people. That was an independent European state that was created by detaching itself from another European state, right? So it's not like this country was led and organized by brown folk like us. It was organized, and it still is being ran by criollos. And criollos are the Europeans that are born on our continent. That was the terminology for it. And again, Spaniards originally came here, and then their offspring was criollos, and criollos are the ones that still run the majority of Latin America, not just Mexico, but the majority of Latin America. So again, we have to look at the things critically. A lot of what we are being taught was given to us because they wanted to have us in their agenda. And their agenda, again, was to strip us of our identity. Again, if I go, for example, if I want to take your house, right? And I see you and I get a billy club and I hit you over the head, right? And then you wake up and you don't even know who you are. You don't even know you own the house, right? It's going to be a lot easier to take your house. I can just walk in and you wouldn't even fight me on it because you don't even know who you are, right? This is the same concept of what they have done to our people, and they continue to do to our people, and what they continue to perpetuate onto our people. And again, if you don't know yourself, you're the original inhabitants of this land. This is our ancestral inheritance, this continent. So, yeah, it runs really deep. And I also want to make this a disclaimer as I talk to you, right? As I say these things, look at your body, right? Look how your body is reacting to what I'm saying, right? Look how your body is reacting. Are you getting tense? Are you getting a little uncomfortable? Are you getting a little anxious? And ask yourself why. What is it about this that makes our people so uncomfortable? Because a lot of us don't want to look at certain truths because there's a lot of, again, I talked about this last podcast, but intergenerational trauma, right? Intergenerational trauma is a trauma that is passed down from being an oppressed people, right? And it's not just in the past, a continually oppressed people.
Okay. Let me say this. There's a lot of people that hear you, are listening, but may have their mind already made up. Like,
I completely agree.
and here's what I always quote. I always tell this to my son. So ignorant people don't want to learn. Here's what they say: don't confuse me with the facts. My mind is made up. Let that one marinate for a little bit. Don't confuse me with the facts. My mind is made up, and that's how a lot of people think. I don't want to learn. My mind is made up. I don't care. Okay. Another thing that I said last time, and I want to encourage everyone that everything you're saying, listen to it, take notes, watch it again, and then do your own research and see what he is saying is true. And if you find out that he lied, then you know what? Don't listen to him anymore.
Exactly.
But if you find out that it's true, continue to research.
Exactly. And when you find out the truth, right? When you look into this yourself, I'll give resources where you can start at the end. But don't just look away. Don't just look away. A lot of people, they get to know this information, they look at it, and then they look away and they go back to what they were doing. The struggle is still going. The struggle is still going on. Our pain is still going on. We have to do something. And it starts with you, literally. It starts with you. Are you going to... So knowing that you're a native and you're a continuation of being indigenous, what are you going to do with that information? Are you going to still go... once you find out the truth, are you still going to go by these labels? For what reason? Why? Are you being easy on yourself? Are you just taking it easy? I mean, you really have to ask yourself these serious questions and take in these truths.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break. I know when we come back, you have some questions you wanted to ask me.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then I got some more stuff that people have submitted their questions and they wanted me to ask you. So Perfect. We'll come back. So once again, everybody, go ahead and call somebody, text somebody, educate somebody, and let them know that Clear Bear is in the motherfucking building. We'll be back 10 minutes.
Roadium with the funky drum, and you know my man Steve can get some. With a fool like Tony A when he plays stupid dope shit by WA. You wanna spray? Dumb motherfuckers, no doubt. And sucker DJ.
Get the fuck out!
Tony A.
What did you say your name was? What did you say?
Tony A.
I have won 1,000,000 battles. Lights, cameras, action, sound. Give me that mic, I'm about to go down.
Thinking of a master plan.
This story's funny. I met this girl and she had money.
And now, welcome back, everyone, to Roadium Radio, episode 188. And we're going to go ahead and jump right back into it with Clear Bear. So, I know you said he has a question. I don't know if you want to wait. I don't know if you want to ask me now, or unless you got something you want to share there in your laptop.
I want to ask you a question. How do you personally identify?
Well, I guess the best way that I can say it is this. Since you asked me that, my mom and my dad are both from Torreon, Coahuila, from Mexico. Half of my family was born over there, and then, the rest was here. And I guess I always identified myself what I was told I was, a Mexican. Mm-hmm. Now, that's pretty interesting, though, because, okay, when I tried going back to Mexico, my parents told me that they're not going to receive you well. Now, I was very prideful. I was, like I said, Mr. Viva la Raza, Mr. Viva Mexico, okay? And I said, why not? Because they're not going to identify you as a real Mexican because you weren't born over there. And I'm thinking, but those are my people. I'm proud. This is my early 20s, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's true. I went over there, and they didn't see me like one of them. They gave me the name Pocho. But here's the funny part. Mm-hmm. I would go with my brother, and he was born over there, and they didn't treat him any different. I mean, they didn't treat him any different. They're like, oh, you're a Pocho too. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? So now, and that's just a very long story short, okay? When I came home, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I took down all my Viva Mexico shit that I had all on my walls, bro. I took it all down.
Shit, man.
Yeah, and I said to myself, and not just because one or two people, there was a lot of people that were like that with me, and I just said, you know what? I'm gonna be real with you. I folded everything in a box and I just said, fuck that. Honestly. Mm-hmm. I was one of those guys, this used to be Mexico, and then being criticized by Mexicans that came over here that would live across the street or around the corner and then make fun of me because they were saying that I didn't speak proper Spanish. I'm a want-to-be Mexican. Mm-hmm. So I got it over there and I got it here. So you asked me what do I identify myself with?
Yeah.
Now I'd probably even say Chicano.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why I say that.
Yeah.
Cheech Marin, a lot of people know him from Cheech and Chong, okay? He almost had the same issue. He goes, I went to Mexico, they didn't identify me as a Mexican. I came over here, I wasn't really Mexican enough, or I was whitewashed, so I just say, I'm just Chicano. So many times, a lot of us are probably watching right now that feel exactly the same way that I feel. Yeah. And we don't know where we fit in. So when you ask, what do you identify yourself as? That's a tough one for me. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at. So I would just say I'm Mexican because my mother and my father were.
Okay. And you identify that as like your race?
Yeah.
Your race.
Yeah.
Your race is Mexican.
Yeah. Okay. That's the best answer that I can give you from what little info I know. Okay.
And so when I tell you what I've researched, and I tell you like how Mexican isn't a race, it's a nationality.
Yes.
Meaning it's being used incorrectly by the majority of us.
Uh-huh.
Like, how does that strike you? What do you think by the message that is being told to you? And I think that's important. It's really important.
Well, the way you're explaining it, the way you're sharing it, for me, because I would like to learn, it's intriguing.
Yes.
For some people, it may be like, forget this guy. This guy's a kook, you know.
Yeah.
He's trying to brainwash me or whatever. And I think the people that do feel that way is because either they don't want to find out that they're wrong, you know, maybe their whole life they've been wrong. For me, I'd rather know if I was wrong.
Yeah.
And I can correct it. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. But some people are, like I said, don't confuse me with the facts. My mind is made up. You know, I'm not one of those guys. So
I respect that. And I want to ask, do you see yourself in some time, and going by what you've been sharing with your own research or your own experiences, do you ever see yourself honestly calling yourself native or identifying to some degree with indigeneity? Not even in the sense of like culturally, but just acknowledging that's part of your race, that's part of your bloodline.
yes. Now, I've never gone out in public and said that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I understand.
But yes, I do believe that because my mother used to talk to us about her mother, which is my abuelita.
Yeah.
And like I was just, you know, sharing earlier, you know, my grandmother was a very short woman. She was a very dark woman. And I was trying to find you a picture so you could see it. But I knew when I saw her, she was native. I knew that. And
I saw the picture. It was very obvious.
yes.
Yeah.
So I never denied that. And I could tell that my father, being looking white with blue eyes, but born in Mexico, obviously he favored more of the Spaniard look. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But he didn't speak English. You know, he was born, raised in Mexico. So it was so family there. But now my mother was more on the dark side. Everybody in her family side was all dark, you know, native looking. Yeah. And I took on a lot of those features from her from the family side. I'll show you during one of the breaks her father. And if you look at him, I look just like him, you know. But yeah, I've had now, the reason why I enjoy talking to you and learning from you, I'm 53. I don't know if you want to identify your age, but I know you're a lot younger than me, okay? And I bring that up to say this, that many of us that are watching, you need to knock it off and stop saying, you know, oh, he's younger than me, what can he teach me? Yeah. We can't do that. We can't do that because you are here to enlighten us, you are here to educate us, and bless us with this knowledge that we can learn and grow from. Because if we don't know it, you know, I mean, if I go and listen to college and the teacher is younger than me, am I just gonna walk out because he's younger than me?
No.
I'm 53, he's 40. Nah, screw that dude. He don't know shit. You know, and if people are watching and they feel that way because you're younger, stop that, please. Let us just learn. Now, I'm glad that you're educating me because I like the fact that the way you speak, you're passionate about it. I met other people that research their roots, and believe it or not, they kind of came at me almost like, almost like, how would you say, almost like a wild preacher on the street telling everybody they're going to hell. You know, it was almost like, how do you say, like they weren't trying to educate me, they were just trying to put me down because I didn't know my roots. Yeah. You know, you don't know, you're ignorant, you're dumb, you should learn, you should. And I'm thinking, I really want to say, motherfucker, you've only been a so-called born-again native for 2 weeks and all of a sudden you're trying to talk shit to me? Exactly. So I'll be honest, I close those people off. I see that you're not like that, so I'm open.
Thank you. That's really good to know. Like that adds a lot of, it helps educate me because I'm trying, I'm learning. I'm developing a technique of like how to communicate with other people and how to spread this message more effectively. Yeah. So that's good to hear. And I generally do believe that like our people are I said this last time, but our people are going through a genocide, right? And it's a genocide of the mind. It's in a way that we're not understanding who we are. We're not understanding like the full complexity of it. We just see like the bit that the oppressor has given us, right? But we're not seeing the full course, the full entirety of it. So, but when I say Latinidad was used to genocide and is still being used to genocide our people, and please research this yourself. It is true. It is true from the bottom of my heart. It is being used to silence the reality of our people. Because, and I hope I'm not rambling on too much so you can actually digest what I'm saying, but our identity is tied to the land, right? So I'm going to try to simplify it again. Our identity is tied to the land. Our identity is tied to the land. That's why you see more focus on BLM. You see more focus on Stop Asian Hate. You see more focus on maybe other groups, what's going on in Palestine. I'm not saying these things aren't important. They are. But at the end of the day, what's happening to us as indigenous people in terms of being misdirected and miseducated is an intentional genocide, because we still, by the numbers, we still are the majority.
Yes.
And it's important to get that, right? It's important to get that, or they're going to continue, teaching us that we're some sort of other.
Other. Yes.
And again, this whole concept of mixed race negates your ability to identify as your ancestors. I don't agree with that, right? And a lot of people assume like, oh, you're just saying to identify with the indigenous and ignore my other races. I'm not saying that at all. Everyone keeps putting words in my mouth. That's one of the hate I get a lot. Oh, you're saying that I can't identify with my other races. I can't identify with this because I also love my Spanish side. I also love my African side. I love my Asian side, etc. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that the indigenous side is at the very bottom. No one is giving a fuck about it. No one is giving it its fair look. No one wants to go there. And it's valid and it's been suppressed. God damn, can we please look at this? Please. I'm begging my people to look at who they are. Because quite frankly, you're not getting assaulted, you're not getting abused, you're not getting disrespected because you're speaking Spanish. Spanish is a European language. Spanish is from Europe. It's a white language, right? You're getting dishonored, disrespected, and assaulted because of your brown skin. Where does your brown skin come from? It's not an accident. It's because you're indigenous. You are native to this land, right? Our features mimic the geography of our land. Our features mimic the geography of this continent. We are the original people. We are the continuation of it, right? If you have other races, acknowledge other races. Go for it, please. But at the same time, don't be afraid to put a little more emphasis on your indigenous heritage, man. It's important,
right.
It's so crucial, right? So crucial.
Okay. I have a couple of other questions that somebody submitted. This one's kind of a lengthy one, but I'll read it and then we'll go back from the top and we'll address the first one because it's like maybe 6 questions in this little tiny paragraph. This one says, does Clear Bear speak now what? Nahuatl. Okay, we'll come back to that. Where did the word Chicano come from? Can he define Chicano? Did the Aztecs really have visions or were they talking illusionary substance like the toe or others? How does he think the pyramids were built? By hand, rope, or maybe a little help from extraterrestrials? Since there has been a lot of footage of UFOs in Mexico, does he believe in God? Let's go back to the first one. Does he speak Nahuatl?
I'm not fluent in Nahuatl, but I know a good amount. I'm learning Nahuatl. I'm a reconnecting native myself. I'm not going to sit here and just tell you all that I'm some sort of knowledge guru. I'm not, but I know a lot. I know a good amount, and I'm confident in the information I know. And there's that. What's the second question?
Okay, the second question is, where did the word Chicano come from? Can he define Chicano? I would say that's 2 in 1. Where did it come from, and can he define Chicano?
Okay, so where did it come from? The term Chicano was popularized in the 70s by the Chicano movement, right? And it was basically a movement that was looking for equal rights for Chicano peoples, right? Our peoples. And what is a Chicano? Let's get into that. A Chicano, and this is my personal experience, every person I ask has like a slightly different interpretation of what it means to be Chicano. But what I see it as is more of a political identity. It's not necessarily a racial identity. A Chicano, from the way I learned it, is a Mexican-American, right? That's a Mexican-American, a unique experience. Because again, like what you were saying, I can't really quite fit in Mexico. I can't really quite fit in as an American. I'm a Mexican American, but no, I'm not a Mexican American. I'm a Chicano, right? And that's how that kind of was created. Yeah, that's what a Chicano is, from what I was told. And also, I've heard other variations of it, like even some Filipino peoples claiming to be Chicano, even though they're not racially of this continent. They just call themselves Chicano. I have encountered some situations like this. So it's pretty vague. It's pretty vague. And in my opinion, I think Chicano isn't necessarily terrible. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to identify as. But I do think that it's a stepping stone to get down to the root, get down to the bone of who we are, right? Indigenous, native, right? We are native people. And I think the Chicano movement, if you look at it, it was going towards there. And it was even acknowledging it to a certain degree. You know, some circles have Chicano with an X, right? Chicano, right? And that's supposed to be more of an acknowledgement to the indigenous reality of who we are. And, you know, I see that too. But again, I personally would prefer to be called indigenous or native.
Okay, and then this one says, did the Aztecs really had visions, or were they talking illusionary substance? I'm not sure what that question really means.
Did the Mexica have visions?
Did the Aztecs really have visions, or were they taking illusionary substance like tow or others? I'm not sure if he even spelled that right. Did they have visions, or do you think they were taking something like...
I believe that they were having, I think they had visions that were granted to them through meticulous training of meditation and other techniques that they had, and that they still use and have. I think that the substances that they take, that our people use, grants them the ability to communicate with beings, right? Spiritual beings, entities, whatever you want to call it, forces. And it all comes down to how you define it, like, because there's different definitions to these things, right? Like, how do you define a cosmic entity or a force, right? It's hard to really define it, right? Because everyone has like a little different definition of it, right? Oh, some people say that there are multiple realities going on right now, right? A lot of native beliefs had this concept of there are different realities. There are different levels to where we are, right? And different interpretations of what this means. So I honestly think that there is a spiritual component. I think that they can communicate. And again, it's not that our technology was material like the white man. Our technology was in our consciousness. And I'm quoting an IM member, so I want to give her credit, Kelly Gomez. Great quote. But yes, our consciousness is in our technology is our consciousness. Our higher technology is our consciousness, our ability to think and be at peace with ourselves, etc. Yeah. Okay.
This next one, I mean, I don't even think scholars have ever been able to give a good answer on this one, but I'm going to go ahead and shoot it at you anyways. How does he think the pyramids were built? I love Egypt. I love Egyptology. Mm-hmm. We still don't know how the pyramids were built, so I'm kind of intrigued what you're going to share. By hand, rope, or maybe a little help from the extraterrestrials. Since there has been a lot of footage of UFOs in Mexico, does he believe? Okay, let's stick to the UFO or pyramids, whatever. Let me share with you what my dad told me, because my dad, he studied a lot of stuff. Yeah. He was a big, if I can say, believer in extraterrestrials, UFOs, humanoids, whatever we want to call them. Platillos voladores, that's what he would call them. And he would always say that he believes that one day, this is as crazy as he was until he changed, that Jesus Christ is going to come back one day in a UFO, okay? And he would say in the Bible, when Moses led the children of Israel out of Egypt into the wilderness, by day, and he would show me, look, by day there was a pillar in the sky, a pillar of like a cloud, and that they would follow it by day. And at night, fire in the sky, and they will follow it by night. So he said, that's UFOs, okay? The book of Ezekiel talks about the wheel in the middle of a wheel, that's a UFO. You know, there are many things, and then he would show me pictures, the hieroglyphics in Egypt, where these, I don't even know if those are even real, but pictures of Egyptians pointing, and they would show something in the sky. And then he would show me the same thing. I don't even know if they were actually even for Mexico or not, but look, they found the same things in Mexico, whether you call them cartouche or hieroglyphics, people pointing to the sky. Mm-hmm. Did natives, from what you know of, I know not all natives believe the same, but did they believe in possibly extraterrestrials, or what, have you heard any of these things?
Not from my knowledge, no.
Okay.
Extraterrestrials, like in space?
Yeah, of course.
No, but I have heard of like interdimensional beings.
Like, give me an example. What is that?
Like an interdimensional being is like a being from a different reality or a different place, right?
Okay.
And it's not always very specific. It's always just like, there are beings from another realm or another reality or another space, right? That isn't here, right? And again, Sasquatch, a lot of native beliefs was an interdimensional being, right? So it was, and this is just an example, right? So some tribes believed in that Sasquatch was an interdimensional being, that the reason that people, I can't quite find him, is because he pops in and out.
I've heard that too.
And it's interesting. It's interesting, but not quite an alien in like what y'all.
Okay, like take me to your leader type of guy.
Exactly.
Okay, now.
Not like a little man. No
yeah.
man.
Now, once again, does he know how the pyramids were built? Scholars don't even know today. You know?
Exactly. There's a big debate about it. The way I think is maybe it was a little bit of all, right? Not that minus the extraterrestrial part. I actually think our people did it on their own. And I know that's, for whatever reason, people don't like that answer, but I honestly do think our people did it on our own. We were intelligent enough to do that. But I think it was a little mixture of all three.
Okay. This next one is, does he believe in God? It's kind of a tricky question because...
Define God.
Yeah, exactly. And you can ask a Mormon, you can ask a Jehovah, you can ask a Catholic, and they all have their own interpretation of God. Yeah. So
I can go into what I personally believe. I believe in a creator, right? And my creator is very similar to how it's not the same as like the Mexica per se, like the Aztec, like Teoch, but it's this idea that we are part of something that is made up of everything, like me, you, the water, the wind, the metals, minerals, and liquids that make up the world and universe. They're all part of this greater being, right? And it's the natural essence, it's the natural force, it's the creator, right? And I guess you could call it, you could use the word God, I guess, but it's not necessarily a man, right? It's formless. It's just a great being.
Okay. Now, I'm asking because some people have asked, do natives, or once again, and when I say natives, I'm not saying all of them, because obviously everybody believes something different.
Yes.
Okay. But I guess to narrow it down to you, do you believe that there is a heaven or a hell?
Do I believe there's a heaven or a hell? That's a good question. No, I don't think that there's, I don't think there's a heaven and a hell in the biblical sense, but I think that there are places of darkness and places where things are of light, right? Places that are where good things happen. Like there's a spirit world, right? I believe in a spirit world, and it's not necessarily where like it's all of it is bad, all of it is good. It's just kind of like, it's kind of like it is here, right? Some areas are good, some areas are bad. It's just what it is.
Okay. This is another one. I seen a video where he's been learning the Nahuatl language. Nahuatl. Okay, forgive me, bro. I'm trying my hardest.
I get it.
Okay. And then this one said, it's kind of the same question, but that's by somebody else. Can you ask him how's that going for him? I myself bought the same book. He was sharing about learning Nahuatl. Okay. How's that going for you?
It's going good. I love the language, and the language is very beautiful. It was a trade language. So a lot of different nations all throughout Mexico Even some in what is now known as the United States were speaking it. Some nations in El Salvador were speaking it, this native language, Nahuatl. There's different variations of it. The two most popular in Mexico is Huazatec Nahuatl and just like standard Nahuatl, right? Central Mexico Nahuatl, right? And I'm learning Huazatec Nahuatl, and that's the most spoken indigenous language right now of the entire continent, from what I've learned. But I'll introduce myself in the language. Piali, nimit tlapalos, nana toka tupashkar. That means hello. I greet you. My name is Clear Bear.
Okay.
So yeah, and then Piali is hello.
Now, if somebody were to walk up to you and speak that language, would you be able to? Are you? I guess I don't want to say the word fluent enough, but more. What is that damn word I'm looking for? Like if somebody were to come up to you and start talking to you, can you identify some of those words?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, good.
Okay. All right. This is a funny one. Ask him if he listens to corridos, Spanish music, or Chicano rap, and who.
I don't really listen to a lot of Spanish music. Not too much corridos, not any corridos, to be honest. I do listen to some Chicano rap. I grew up with Chicano rap. And that's actually kind of the very first start of how I got into, our people, like just knowing about it. Because I was raised in a white community by white people, right? So the only sense of introduction I had was Chicano rap, literally.
Okay.
And, I'm not super into Chicano rap, 100%. I still listen to it when I work out, still feel it. But I started with Little Rob. I started with Little Rob, yeah.
All right, all right.
I like him. I like him. He hits some good
That'll work. Little Rob, if you're hearing this, yo, you got a fan. Okay. By the way, people constantly always ask me, when's Little Rob? When's Little Rob? When's Little Rob coming to over here?
When is Little Rob?
Well, here's the thing that we've talked several times, and he said yes. We've just never been able to get a date in. And it's because he doesn't live close, so I understand that.
He's in San Diego, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm not allowed to disclose.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah. Okay, I had some questions here. I had some other questions, and now all of a sudden I can't find these damn things. Let me see, this is it. Okay, I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe I didn't save it. But we got a few minutes before we go to break. Do you think you could share a little bit of what you have right there, what you want to share with the people?
Yes. So I just want to point out some interesting things. Are you familiar with what mestizo is?
I've heard of it. I don't know anything really.
Okay, so you don't even know the definition of it?
No, not at all.
I appreciate the transparency. So mestizo is basically the idea that I am the product of European and Native ancestry. I'm a mestizo. That's like the simplified idea of it, right? So, to the untrained ear, that's fine, right? Okay, that's fine. But I want to go into why it's bad. That's a bad thing. You should not call yourself a mestizo. And it's not because you're identifying as mixed. It's what the word was used for. The context of what the word was used for. Everyone is like, oh, you're just hating because you don't like the word mestizo. It just means mixed. No, it doesn't. It defined our people as subhuman. It defined our people as subhuman in a racial hierarchy. And essentially what a hierarchy is, basically you have, here, I'll show a picture. So this is like a hierarchy, right?
Okay.
At the top you have white people. At the bottom you have Black and Native people, right?
Wow.
And
like a pyramid almost.
Yeah, it's like a pyramid. So the more closer to white you are, the more respect you would have, right? And mestizo is what the majority of quote unquote Latin America is, right? And they were defined as, I could even call it second class. It was more like third class human beings. And again, I wish I could show this picture, but you can also DM me and I can send you these pictures.
Yeah, she has a PowerPoint set up. We should have had it up on the screen, but you know what? I had no idea that he was going to be bringing these, but I'm glad he did.
And also you have these pictures right here. This is the caste system. So I know you can't really see, it's a little blurry, but again, it shows white people who are from Spain, Europe, white people who were born in the New World. Below that, you have mixed race people of European and native descent. Below that, the more your quantum was primarily indigenous or black, the lower you would be on this social class.
You know, it's funny because me being in the music industry, me knowing the entertainment, you know, I'm just going to be honest, and if people want to get mad at me for saying this, go ahead, but I've seen it, and you have seen it too. I've known artists, personally, artists that sang, they rapped, they tried acting, nothing. But you know what they all did? One thing that they all had in common, somebody told them, dye your hair blonde.
Wow.
And you know what? And it worked. And it worked. You look at artists like, I know some people are going to hate me. Well, I won't even mention no names, but look at some of your very favorite artists. Okay, that all of a sudden went blonde and everything skyrocketed. You got athletes, you got movie stars, you got singers, rappers, dye your hair blonde. And like what you just said, I guess if you're white, you're at the top.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know.
And again, this label, it's not just, I know it's not really used too much over here in the United States, but all across Latin America, people identify themselves as mestizo. Majority of the population, you know, you look at the demographics, they do. Again, it's, and the idea that comes with it too was like, every sense of civilization and intelligence was defined through, you know, having white blood. So you'd be civilized, you'd be intelligent as long as you had some degree of white blood. You're fine, right? You'd be okay in the social class. But yeah, going off what you were saying, absolutely, you see it all over. You see blonde hair, blue eyes, you know, skin lightening, bleaching their skin. You know, a lot of our community has this issue, and it's rampant. It's rampant. Why can't we just let our hair be natural, whether if it's curly, wavy, black and beautiful, right? Why do we have to hide our natural features? We should be proud of what we look like. We look very gorgeous. Our natural features are, honestly, that's what I prefer. I like to see our people embracing themselves. I see a lot of our grandmothers, I see a lot of our sisters, I see a lot of our aunts. They're all doing this. They're all dyeing their hair blonde. They're all putting, well, not all, but a lot of them are putting blue eye contacts on, green eye contacts on. We have to love ourselves. We have to love ourselves, because that's just like that's an open mark of self-hatred right there. That's a sign like, hey, I don't value my natural. I'm trying to be something I could never truly be. Be proud of your roots.
Yeah, I mean, some people even go, I'm going to say this, then we'll go to break. But some people, even as far as going, I'll dye my hair blonde, get some blue contact, get fake titties and a fake ass.
Yep.
And I'll get a lot of likes and comments. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break. I won't be right back. So once again, call somebody, text somebody, educate somebody, yo. Okay, let's educate our people. We'll be back 10 minutes. So go get yourself something to drink.
Yo, right about now, Dr. Dre is in effect. Cold tan shit up with my man Steve at the Roadium swap meet. And we here to lay it on the line. All them sucker niggas out there claiming our tapes and shit, we just got one thing to say.
Live at your board, your ass is mine. Live at your board, your ass is mine. Live at your board, your ass is mine. Yeah! Now my name is Dr. Dre. 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 Went to a party in West LA. Wanna learn a new dance, that's what you say. What is a new dance that can't be matched? So just dance to the flow, do the cat. Here it come, here it come, here it kitty come from. Here it come, here it come, here it kitty come from. Get it, Dre.
Just do 1 2 1 2. Right about now, Eazy-E and Dr. Dre's in the motherfucking house.
Times are getting crazy, it's really hard to choose it. The Roadium's a spot to get funky, fresh music. Easy motherfucking E and my homeboy Dr. Dre. MC Ren is in effect, and you know we don't play. The Roadium is hitting, but you know you can't leave until you get a deaf ass tape from Steve. Oh Steve, oh Steve, oh Steve, just give me just one more tape. Oh Steve, oh Steve, oh Steve, just give me just one more tape. Oh Steve, oh Steve, oh Steve, just give me just one more tape. Oh Steve, oh Steve, oh Steve, just give me just one more tape.
Yeah, man, I came all the way down to the Roadium swap meet, man, to pick up one of the NWA tapes, man. And I talked to homeboy Steve down there, man, and he said I'm fresh out of tapes, man. How the fuck you fresh out of tapes, man? He said 'cause they selling like hotcakes and shit, man. That's my man going down. Hey, Mom, what's for dinner?
Welcome back, everybody, to Roadium Radio episode 188. Only 12 more episodes, and we'll reach 100. 200. I don't even know what the hell I'm going to do when I reach my 200 show. You know, I'll probably just order some ceviche and have a gang of fools here eating with me. I don't know. But once again, we're not going to bullshit anymore. We're going to go ahead and jump right back into it with Clear Bear. Okay? You don't know how many times I've almost slipped and say Care Bear. It sucks, man. Forgive me.
I know, man. It's common. It's common. It happens a lot.
Okay, now, you know what? A question that I received 3 times today was, can you have him speak on Juan Diego and I guess the Virgin Mary appearing to him? If you could just give us, well, you know, I guess whatever info you may have.
All right. So the concept of Juan Diego was basically he was an indigenous peasant who Virgin Mary appeared before him. That's what I'm used to hearing about him. And he first popped up in a pamphlet that was written by a Christianized indigenous person in the 1600s. And he wasn't directly named Juan Diego. That came later on, right? And also, his existence is controversial. Some people think that he existed. Some people think that he didn't exist at all, right? And he was used as a way to convert indigenous people into, again, Christianity, etc., European beliefs. And so what's interesting is that Guadalupe, right, that was directly inspired to assimilate and indoctrinate our people from Tonantzin. Tonantzin is, for those of you who probably don't know who that is a Mexica deity. She is the representation of fertility and earth, right? And that was what a lot of the natives back then, our people, were believing in, right? So when the Spaniards saw this, you know, kind of like, you know, what's the word? Changed up their perceptions, right, of Mary, and fed it to our people with like an indigenous hint to it, right? So that's essentially what happened.
Okay. So, see, what's new to me is that you're saying that this person might have not even existed. There's people. Exactly. So you're saying there's 2 sides. People say he did exist. Some people say he never even existed. So it could have been maybe a folktale.
Exactly.
Could have been. Okay, I
Could
like
be
to say that.
could be a folktale. It's arguable. Like some scholars say he existed, some scholars say he didn't exist, and then there's me who's seen both sides, and it's like everyone's arguing. So it's kind of hard to like get it clear because no one really knows. Right.
Right. Okay.
No one
Now,
has a solid idea.
before we move on to the next topic, is there any type of, because there is such thing as proof and evidence.
Yeah.
Is there any of that to support that he possibly did exist?
Honestly, from my opinion, take it with a grain of salt. From what I've seen, I honestly don't think he existed. I don't think he existed. I think that the story, because his earliest account, from what I was researching, was that it was from a pamphlet, right? That was in Nahuatl. That was from a native person who was doing work for the Spaniards in order to assimilate other natives into their religion. And he wasn't directly called Juan Diego, right? He was just called an indigenous man. It was just vague. They didn't give him a name. But into later interpretations, he was given a name. He was given more of a backstory. It just seems like it was kind of a loose story. People really liked that idea. Oh, tell me more about this. And then it was just kind of more developed later on, right? So to me, it just doesn't seem like he really existed at all. Or
Right.
maybe he was influenced by someone who did exist, but I don't think that story happened. But again, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. This is just what I believe.
Yeah, definitely don't want to offend anybody because there's a lot of people that are diehard Catholics. And let me tell you something. I came from a very, very religious mother and father that were diehard Catholics. And believe me, they would kill anybody who would try to say that Mary didn't exist or that story didn't happen. So I know that. So I said that because I'm not trying to offend anyone, but we should be able to be mature enough to be able to talk about it and have a somewhat of a conversation about it. So
Exactly. I'm not here to push my beliefs on anyone, like force it. I'm not a colonizer. But I am here just like pointing out some history and some angles of the sides of our identity that aren't given proper light, right? As Native people, right? I'm just trying to equal the playing field because everything you see is Eurocentric, right? It's white-centric. Everything, the language we're speaking, the clothes we're wearing, our cultures are cultures of abuse that have been trickling down since the Europeans arrived on our homelands in 1492.
okay. Now, here's one of my last questions. I got a lot of them, but I want you to share. Once again, you can interject at any time.
Okay.
I want to ask, with people that have traced back their roots like the way you did and are now educating themselves in their roots and their ancestors, and are there people in your community that believe like you that are possibly Bible believers? They believe in Jesus?
Definitely. There's definitely a lot of our people who not just only Catholic, Christian, some are Muslims, some are different religious, come from various religious backgrounds. It's just knowing that, it's recognizing your race. That's all this is. It's recognizing your ancestral identity, right? It has nothing to do with saying you can't do it. We will point out the historical facts, though, like how a lot of Catholicism and Christianity was introduced through genocide. Again, that's a fact. But that's not to say that, you don't believe what you believe or any of that. It's just pointing that out, right? And then you can take that with whatever you want. But it was used as a tool, not saying objectively that it's completely horrible, malicious, and everywhere it was. I'm sure that there's been, it originated in the Middle East. I'm sure that it's solid in its ways and people corrupted it. I know it's not a European religion at all. It's a world religion, etc. But at the end of the day, it was used as a tool of genocide by European colonizers.
Okay. The reason why I asked that is because I've known some people that identify themselves as natives, and they'll say, "Oh no, I gave up all my Christian beliefs. Now I believe this." Okay, cool. I have no problem with that. And then I've known people that have said, "You know what? I traced my roots and I'm native. I didn't know. I know more now, but they still hold on to their religious beliefs. So I just wanted to know when somebody traces back the roots and find out who they are, do they have to forsake what they used to practice? Some people did, some people don't, at least the people that I knew. So that's why I asked that.
You know, exactly. It's like, to make it very crystal clear, it's just recognizing your roots and being proud of it, right? I'm not a colonizer. I don't believe that it's my business to tell you how to believe or what to think or what religion to practice. I don't believe that, right? And I speak for myself. But at the end of the day, it's just recognizing a race. Like, everyone is identifying as a race, whether it be Chinese, white, European, African, Black, Middle Eastern, right? The only people who aren't doing that, is essentially our people, right? We're not calling ourselves native. We're not identifying by our continental race and our indigenous reality. That's all that is. End of story. That's all that is.
Okay.
Identify with your race. There's no shame in it. I mean, and knowing that Mexican isn't a race is important too. Knowing that Latino is not a race and Hispanic is not a race is fucking important. We have to note that, right? Because to me, it's like, education really is power, knowledge is power, and we want to be ready for whatever comes our way.
Okay. Now, I kind of want to open it up just in case you have anything else that you wanted to share there. I know during the break you were showing me some pictures of certain things. I know it's kind of hard because they can't see them,
Yes.
but maybe you care to elaborate a little bit more on what you have there.
I want to break up some common misconceptions about Native people that a lot of us think that aren't true. For example, let's talk about, I can't be Native, I can grow facial hair. Well, full-blooded natives, many of them could grow facial hair. Some of them had full-on beards, right? In the Pacific Northwest, some in South America, some in Latin America. I mean, South America or Central America. And yeah, we had beards, we had goatees. I mean, all this was common. Why you're not seeing this is because they're trying to make the idea as native into a one-dimensional, viewpoint, right? Homogenize all native people into one category, one box. But we are very diverse. Some of us had turbans. Doesn't mean we're Muslim, but we had turbans. We had other ways of expressing ourselves. I have some pictures here that actually show some of our relatives, traditional natives who are full-blooded with beards and facial hair.
So that was actually a real thing. People were going around saying, or people are going around saying, that if you have facial hair, there's no way you could have been native?
Yeah, like you can't be native, you have facial hair. Yeah, that's very common. Very common to hear. Yeah, you're not native, you have facial, you have a mustache. You can't, well, I'm sorry to say that there's many full-blooded natives that had mustaches and full beards.
That was kind of confusing. I'll tell you why, because I know a lot of white people that fucking can't grow peach fuzz on their fucking chin. Does that mean they're native?
Exactly.
Yeah, bro. If you're one, yeah. Anyways, yeah.
You can't. It's like you can't generalize a whole race. It's like it's ridiculous to do that. It just looks, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even know that was a damn thing. I mean, now I'm gonna go around checking people. Hey, you got hair? No, you're not native, homie. Like the hell?
Dude, people have said that to so many of my relatives just because they have like a mustache. It's like,
really?
Yeah.
I know girls that have mustache. Does that mean that? So, yeah. Anyways,
another thing is being light-skinned. Oh, I'm not native. I have European because I have light skin. That's not necessarily true. For example, right here I have some pictures of see these two right here. They're not mixed race. They're full-blooded and they're actually from South America, where supposedly the darkest natives are supposed to be, right? Darkest skin natives. These two are full-blooded natives and they're the last surviving members of their tribe.
Wow.
They are Piripura men. And again, what I was talking about in the Amazon, how they're coming over and killing their tribe.
Right.
Yeah, they killed all their tribe. They're the last two left. And they're light-skinned and they have facial hair. Look. Yeah. A lot of people be like, oh, they're mixed. But they're not mixed, right?
Right.
We're getting a lot of these ideas coming from the mouth of the colonizer and not enough from the actual reality and history of indigenous people. Right, because we're just so trusting in what what these institutions that are based largely in European belief styles, right? Styles of European learning, right? And we're not looking enough into how did our people think? What do our people actually look like? Critically think, like, stir that curiosity inside yourself. Like, who are we? What do we look like? And don't go to the TV. Don't go to white man's Hollywood. Don't go to any of their writings. Go to the source. Go to the people. And that's where the answers of liberation will come from.
Yeah, see, because many times a lot of people get their answers from National Geographic or, A&E. And see, look, it says right there,
More right there.
Yeah.
They're very light-skinned, but they're full-blooded native.
Yeah.
It's...
and that's one thing that I know a lot of people, and I know a lot of people that get their education from TV, like they'll get a white guy, throw a suit on him, comb his hair to the fucking side and put Bible scholar at the bottom, and he'll say some bullshit, and some people say, look, he's a Bible scholar. He said it. We don't even know who the motherfucker is.
Wow.
But I've known a lot of dudes, look, he said that this happened. Like, bro, do your own fucking homework. You don't know who that bastard is.
Exactly.
But yet we tend to believe it because, and believe me, I'm not trying to sound racist, but because he's a white guy and he talks intelligent. Mm-hmm. You could be an eloquent speaker and convince a lot of motherfuckers. Hey, Hitler had a great mouth on him, bro. Charles Manson had a great mouth on him. Mm-hmm. Jim Jones had a great mouth on him.
Yep.
Okay?
True.
And people believe them and look what happened.
Yep.
Okay? Do your own research. Do your own homework. See what this man is telling you is true.
Exactly.
So...
Yeah. And it's not as hard. It's not as hard as one may think to find out. And here, I want to give some resources for people.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's get into it. I had to write them all down.
Alice, can you turn that light a little bit to him, please?
So
give him a little bit more light. There you go.
So I want to get more. Last episode, you asked me to bring in some resources.
Yes.
Right? Or at least list some down. And I want to just tell you all where I get my information from. Bear in mind, this is not everything. This is just what I could fit into writing, and there's a lot more. But Tony Gonzalez, he's a leader of the American Indian Movement West, which is in the Bay Area. He is my mentor, and he has taught me about, reconnecting to indigeneity, indigenous roots, that most Mexicans and Latinos, quote unquote, are native people, that they are indigenous people. And he is my mentor. He introduced me to ceremony. He introduced me to sweat lodge. He introduced me to the way of our people, the natural way, the original way. Also, Citlali Anahuac, she is a historian and a community professor. She has a PhD. And again, she talks about all this stuff. She talks about the caste system. She talks about decolonization, reclaiming our native heritage, what that means, navigating life in a current genocide and understanding it, like actually just digesting it and seeing life for what it is and, being proud of who we are. Also, my many travels are across the United States, Mexico, Canada, discussing with members of different tribes and comunidades. I also worked at the Native American Health Center, and they shared a lot of traditional songs. There was a lot of cultural exchange. I learned from there as well. Reading many different books. One of them that I read is To Die in This Way, The Myth of the Mestizaje by Jeff Gold. It's a good book. I want to recommend Bite the Melon, Spit Out the Seeds. So take what you know to be true or what you can sense is true, but then spit out whatever you see as nonsense, right? Because there's a lot of nonsense out there. American Holocaust by David Stannard. The Other Genocide, an Inca account of the conquest of Peru by Titu Kusiapanki. The Way We Lived by Malcolm Margolin. American Indian Contributions to the World by Dean Keoki. La Raza Cósmica by Jose Vasconcelos. Speak Nahuatl by Jan Garcia. For Indigenous Eyes Only by Waziyatawin Wilson and Michael Yellowbird. The Destruction of the California Indian by Rob Heiser. The Popol Vuh. The History of the Chichimeca Nation by Pablo Garcia, Loaiza, and many, many more. But those are just a few to name on the top of my head, yeah.
Okay, so he just gave you guys some resources. I know some of you wanted to know. So this is just a few of the resources that he's made available to you guys. So if you guys want to go back and listen to it, just rewind it, and once again, look it up, Google them, see where you can find these books. If you have any questions for him, you want to find out, once again, your roots or your ancestry, or I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, DM you, but there is a waiting period to find that information.
Exactly. We have a genealogical department. We can help you with that. Go to Indigenous Alliance Movement on Instagram and just shoot us a DM, and then you'll be on the waiting list, and then we'll help you out as soon as we can. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that you wanted to share? Anything else that maybe I didn't ask you? We got a few minutes left, but whatever valuable information that you can share with our listeners would be greatly appreciated, because what you're doing is you're educating us. So, and I like to believe that our people are learning, our people are moving forward, and you can't move forward without knowledge, So, and that's what you're blessing us with. So, if there's anything else, share it.
There have been, yes. I just want to note that there have been many lies by the colonizers to create an inferior image of our indigenous identity. And one of that is just one of that is our viewpoints of self. I know we've been talking about this entire episode, but again, to bring it back is, for example, what they did in order to, the codexes. Let's look at that. The codexes. A lot of the codexes portray human sacrifice, right? But we have to look at who is writing these codexes, right? A lot of them are priests that are European. And if we look at the history, a lot of them had formal decrees that would permit the massacre and slaughtering of our people, right? So it's important to note that. And there's a lot of letters written from the conquistadors to Europe, to Spain, exaggerating or just flat out lying that we were these malicious, savage people that needed to be corrected and fixed, just because we were not of the same beliefs of them, or we weren't practicing the same ways, or just because they saw us as inferior because we weren't hyper-materialistic peoples. So I just wanted to note that as well.
Okay. Now, I know I brought this up last time, but I really, really enjoyed this movie. When this movie came out, my father saw it, and he said it was well put together, but he just didn't like the fact, here's what he said, Mel Gibson made these people look like savages, which is the movie Apocalypto. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with that movie?
Yes.
Okay, I know we spoke on it, we touched on it last time. If there's anything on there that you liked or didn't like, can you share with us?
Yes, definitely. I did not like the fact that they made our people look very disorganized. Like they didn't know that they were just kind of like lost in the woods. I know I touched on that earlier, but I'm just going to say it again. That they made our people look like they were lost in the woods. They didn't portray them accurately at all, in the sense of we wore clothes. Right? So we had some beautiful cotton arrow-proof outfits on, right? And we were just a very clean people. Like the cities we had were very clean. We took many showers, right? We washed and bathed ourselves meticulously. And a lot of what we're being shown is that in Apocalypto is that we were just kind of like dirty, naked. It shows that we were killing boars 24/7, and that was like our main staple diet, or it was implied that. A lot of what we ate was, primarily plant-based. Not all of it. Of course, we did eat meat, we did hunt, we did all do that stuff, but it's not like we were shown in a genuine way. Like we weren't reflected respectfully, because again, the director was a white man who obviously didn't care too much to be as accurate as possible.
Because I saw that movie. Okay, I thought the cinematography part.
Yes.
At least from what little I knew, I wasn't there, so I don't know what it was like. But in the movie, I'm thinking, this shit is badass.
Yeah.
This shit is badass, okay? But I did walk away with, we were fucking savages. Butt fucking naked half the time.
Exactly, yeah.
Like you said, killing boars and, like, we just look fucking evil in that movie.
Yeah.
So when my dad asked me, what did you think? I was just like, I don't know. It looked like we were fucking savages, killing people for the sun god, and then fucking throwing them down the steps. We were blood hungry, savages,
Yep.
And then that's where he got mad. He goes, we were nothing like that. Now keep in mind, this is a white looking dude with blue eyes, but he identified himself as one of them. And he said, we were not like that,
That's
And
powerful, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really powerful.
And I was like, for reals? He goes, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they allowed him to do that. Like, he was really upset at that. So that's why I wanted to bring
He
that.
was conscious to a certain level.
Yes.
He knew.
My dad was a very, very intelligent man. And I'll tell you what, growing up, and I want to encourage people that maybe teenagers, maybe, I don't know, you're in your 20s, maybe you're in your 30s. If you have a dad, listen to him. Okay. And I'll tell you why. I grew up never listening to my dad. Okay. Honestly, I grew up almost with a distance with my dad. He never really taught me anything, and I know this sounds contradictory because I've said in past shows, I've learned everything from my dad. Here's how I learned everything from my dad. He never would say, te voy a enseñar, come over here, I'm going to show you. I would always just watch what he did, and then I would do it. And then many times he would catch me doing what I was doing. Like one day, he had a projector with a reel-to-reel, and he saw me putting on the film, and I wanted to watch it. And he said, how did you know how to do that? And I go, I saw you. Because I saw him so many times. Wow. And then after a while, I started going, we would hop in the station wagon, go to the library and rent black and white movies. And he'll say, okay, go ahead, put it on. That's how he taught me. So it's never like he really said, I'm going to teach you something today. But everything that I know as far as music, as far as movies, as far as instruments, as far as music, whatever, it all came from him. Wow. And very, very intelligent man. But it wasn't until I was older that I finally sat down and I talked to him. And I realized that I had pretty much a scholar sitting right in front of me. Growing up, I thought my dad was an idiot. When I was older, I realized that this man was so wise. Wow, how did my dad get so smart? Really, I was the idiot because I was doing this my whole life. Yeah. And I see a lot of people that are like that, possibly with this information.
A lot. I'd say at the moment, the vast majority are kind of like, exactly, they have a hard time grasping what this means. Like, because a lot of people like to think that, okay, so you're trying to become the past. You're trying to go back to the past. No, we're just trying to use the past as a stepping stone to build our future instead of going towards the perspectives of the white people who put us in this position, because we are economically, socially, and politically controlled by white people. That's a fact. That is a fact. And we have to, we need to step into this reality that we need to open our minds and go back into a brown consciousness, a brown way of thinking, and find value in ourselves, because every time you, like we were talking about earlier, every time you see our mother or sister, any of our relatives dyeing their hair blonde, lightening their skin, and wearing blue eye contacts, you got to ask yourself, do they really value themselves? Do they really value themselves? And if they do, why do they feel like they got to look that way? Why is that the epitome of beauty to them? So much so that they have to express themselves like a white person, right? Why is that their center, right?
Right. I believe last time you were here, if I'm correct, you quoted Malcolm X, okay? I like Malcolm X, and it wasn't because I'm interested in becoming a Muslim. I just love the passion and the fire that he had for his people, and he would say black is beautiful. And you're saying, our people are beautiful. Brown is beautiful. He would always say, you got people trying to straighten out their hair, people trying to bleach their skin, people just, pretty much a lot of the things that we're saying, you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
We mirror what we talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, so I get him and I understand him. The crazy part is his own people killed him. So it doesn't surprise me when you get hate from your own people.
Yeah. I want to share this because this goes off exactly what you're saying. My elder told me before I did, as soon as I told him I wanted to focus on this work, my life's work, they told me that the number one hurdle you're going to have to go through is not the white man. It's not any other group. It's going to be your own people. Because the crabs in the bucket, that's real. That is 100% real. And I hate that it's so true, but it is true. It's the crabs in the bucket is very true. And, we have a hard time respecting each other. And this is from what I've seen. We have a hard time listening to each other, expressing disagreement with respect, right? And that needs to change. It's like we're trying to gatekeep each other, right? Of how to be authentic, right? And that's why I don't really believe in the institutions, right? Because, again, there's so much of, and I'm quoting a little John Trudeau here. He's a famous indigenous activist back in the time. But it's either you succeed in life, right? It's like you either succeed or fail. That's what you're taught from the very young age. You go through school. You either get a good grade or you fail. Pass or fail. Wow. You don't do this, you don't graduate to college, you're a failure, right? But in the indigenous way, it's not that you're a failure or there's a risk of being a failure. It's that you are a whole person, human being from the very start. As soon as you come out of your mother's womb, you are valid and you are an authentic human being, and that's very sacred to know that, hey, I'm valid here. And that's the indigenous way. Right. It's not the Western way of you need to prove yourself and then you finally be accepted and then you finally be valid and then you'll be accepted. The American dream is to find something, right? To go on this journey, this quest, to get somewhere. But the indigenous way is somewhere is already here. It's already within yourself. Yeah. You don't need any material things. The paradise and peace is within yourself. Really. Okay. And that's the indigenous sentiment.
And once again, to finish off what I was saying, if for some reason somebody's out there and their father's trying to reach you, trying to talk to you, trying to educate you, it's only your father trying to do something, instill something good in you. For an example, my father always tried to, but I never ever wanted to listen. I learned a lot of things from him, from what I saw him do. But now that my father's no longer here, now I want to have those conversations. There's so many other things that I want to learn from him because I found out, at a later age that my father's intelligent. He's very intelligent. I almost feel like I don't need to go to school. I learned it all here, because he has years of studying. So I want to encourage some of you, don't wait till your father's no longer here to want to get to know him. Just do it now. So I just felt that I had to say that because I miss my father. Mm-hmm. And like I said, now the questions that I do have, he's not here. Yeah. So before it's too late.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I never got to know my father because I was 1 year old. But if you have the opportunity and the privilege to have a father, appreciate it. That's awesome. That's amazing. It makes me wish I had a father. So yeah.
But thank you for sharing that. Now we come to the end of our interview. Any shout outs you want to give? Any last word? Any last message?
Definitely.
Anything? Go for it.
I want to shout out. No euphemism. They're members of the Indigenous Alliance Movement, our organization, but they're doing their own fashion line, and I'm representing what they're wearing today. They just went to Jalisco, I believe, and they created some great work. This is one of their jackets. Just gonna quickly show. It says "Land Back."
Land Back. That's nice. And is that how they sell it, or is that how they made it for you, or?
Oh, this is. I'm just wearing it for today, but this is going to be sold on its own, and there's a bunch of different clothes they made.
That's awesome, man. I like that. So, other than that, you're more than welcome to come back. Like I said, whenever we want to educate, I think it's important for us to educate our people. So you always have an open door here. whenever you feel like, Tony, I got a message, let me know and we'll set it up.
Yeah, sounds good. I also want to wanted to say I want to do some. I'm willing to like talk to people as well. Like I'm starting a. Say your family needs to be talked to, or there needs to be some communication about this knowledge, because a lot of our younger folk, they reach out and they're like, okay, I know this, but my family are so self-hating, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk. They think being Indio is satanic. They think being Native is something that's negative, when it's just acknowledging your racial identity at the end of the day, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I'm here to talk. I also do consultations. Like I'll talk about anything you want to talk about regarding this topic. So you can reach out to me on my Instagram, Facebook, whatever the case.
All good. Other than that, let me go give my shout outs and then we're out of here. Once again, I'm going to give a shout out to Alex. Which camera am I on? The middle one? Okay. Alex Cervantes Enterprise. Give a shout out to him for running this. Anthony, the Hip Hop Jedi. Once again, thank you for everything you've done. My son, B. Scanlon, for helping me promote this. Just everybody that's shown love, everybody, the subscribers, everybody who's commenting, everybody in the live chat, everybody who likes, dislikes, it doesn't matter. You guys are still watching. Everybody who supports me, everybody who supports Freaky Tales, everybody who supports Dining with the Wizard, supports Roadium Radio. Once again, much love, much respect. Thank you for tuning in and listening to Clear Bear educate us. So with that being said, I'll see you guys Wednesday. And then once again, you never know when we're going to go live and Dine with the Wizard. So be expecting that. Make sure you hit that notification bell button so you guys get notified when we go live. And we're out of here. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Take care, y'all.